Hello and welcome to the Bacon Bites. My name is Seth Bacon and we are going to go ahead and get started. So, hopefully you guys have had a great time. Good. So, for those that didn't have audio / everybody, we'll do that quick intro again. And hopefully, Paul, you can give me the thumbs up here in just a second that the audio came through. So, anyways, what we're going to be doing today, we have a couple of different things. Was out of state this past week, and so hopefully you guys were able to have an opportunity to spend time with friends and family, and being able to catch up on some work if you needed to still work as other people are out. So I had the opportunity to visit some family out of state this past week, and so as you can tell, the format and stuff like that is going to be a little free flowing. It's didn't have the chance to prep like I had hoped to and usually do prior to today's live stream. So Paul, huge shout out to you just for helping out and just for checking out on the audio there. And so very much appreciate people like you helping me as this is, I think, third or fourth stream. I think this is only the third stream. And so very much appreciate that as we continue to learn here. Today's content, what we're going to focus in on is giving a couple of quick shout outs like we usually do with people that are in the community that I follow that have been very helpful to me. Other things I would encourage people to do is drop comments down below. This is going to be a free flowing type of thing. What we're going to do is, again, give a couple of shout outs, highlight the community here in Seattle, which we've done every week. And so that'll be fairly brief. And then from there, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and jump into some of the other deeper content. I don't have any news that we want to highlight this week. And so we will just sort of jump into dynamics. And I want to play with flow a little. It's not something that I've had a chance to yet. And so feel free if there's something that you want to check out on Flow or in Power Apps. I think we'll do Power Apps today. And then we'll go from there. So feel free, like Paul's done, go ahead and drop something in the comments. Very much appreciate the feedback and the interactions. I think we got about 5 or 6 people here this morning already. And so interact with each other, enjoy it. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over to the stuff I wanted to highlight on some of the people. And so one of the people that I've been heavily influenced and somebody that's definitely had a impact on my career is Gus Gonzalez. And so Gus has been a friend, and he's been two things. One, he's been a friend first and foremost. He's been very much a guy that's encouraging and somebody that supports people that are looking to give back to the community. I think if I remember right, he's one of the first Dynamics Community All-Stars. And so it's something that he's definitely engaged in the community. It's something that he just recently did a YouTube video on how he gives back to the community and how he goes through and answers questions. And so I want to give a shout out to Gus. Gus is somebody that I follow. He's somebody that's heavily involved in the community. I feel like he has a good pulse of what's going on. He's definitely a functional consultant. So for those that are developers that are looking for more deeper content, we'll get to the next guy here in a minute that has a little more deep technical content. And again, I think Gus has made that. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn there. But yeah, Gus has spoken at a number of different events. He's somebody that's always doing something on Twitter and YouTube and stuff like that. And so highly recommend following Gus to get a pulse on what's going on out there in the community. The other thing that he does and that I really enjoy, besides his YouTube channel, which I should have pulled up, let me pull that up on the other screen real quick. The other thing that he's doing is that he does CRM MVP podcast. And so this is a podcast focused in and hosted by him as somebody that's a MVP. And what he does is he goes through and focuses in on a number of different topics around that. And so sometimes it takes the hard conversations that people often don't want to discuss. He focuses in on content that's going to be relevant over time as well. And so something that's not just one and done, and this is the hot topic now. It's very much sort of a podcast that you can listen to no matter when you listen to it. So it could be, his goal is to listen to it a year or two after the fact and still be able to have it be relevant. And so that's something that I very much appreciate as somebody that's looking to help people with learning and what that looks like. And so CRM MVP podcast. I did have the opportunity to join a show one week, and we talked about published and unpublished. And so that was episode 38, and very much felt out of my league, but very much welcomed as I had the opportunity to pick the brain of 4 different CRM MVPs, business application MVPs. They've done the rebranding. So the other thing, again, like I said, that Gus is doing is he's doing these 2-minute Tuesdays. And so they're quick hit, and I think he's done 50 of them. He just finished his last one. And what they are his goal is to do 2 minutes, and it's kind of like my goal was 8 minutes, and often they're longer, as you can tell by the time. And it's fun because he's brought other people in there. And so this is the one I was just talking about, behind the scenes of an MVP. And so he goes through and just shows you what it looks like in his how he goes about answering questions in the community. And then this last one was really good in when he talks about selling and stuff like that. And so very much informal and very much informative, but at the same time informal. And so it was a great guess. I really appreciated this one, sort of what you're looking to do, right? So you have a customer, and so often we focus in on what the product is, and what they actually want is what they're able to achieve with the product. And so this is actually, it's funny that he posted this this past Tuesday, which was Christmas, because the conversation that I referenced last week was from a marketer. A marketer encouraged me to sort of take this approach and say, okay, Seth, it's great that you're giving out content and stuff like that, but what does it look like when you actually this is what people want to learn about. And so when you talk about people in the industry and talk to people in the industry, when you talk about a VP of marketing or VP of sales, this is what they want to talk about. They know where they are, and they know what they want to be, but your product's sort of this middle. And so if you keep highlighting the fact that, oh, look, it's got some red and it's got some green, it's got some leaves and stuff like that, and this is all really cool stuff, what you actually want to, again, I feel like it's a dirty word, but you want to sell them, or you want to help them achieve, is a better way of putting it, is actually to, you want to help them achieve this, and this is where they want to be, and that's where they want to have technology empowering them to do something. And so that's where we're going to hopefully go with these mornings with Bacon and Business Apps, is to go and focus in sort of on some of these different use cases, and then being able to take one of those use cases and talk about how the product, how the different business applications are going to focus in on that. So that's Gus. There's a lot that can be said about him. But he's very much somebody that I would encourage people to follow, interact with him. He's very engaged in social media. He's always looking for information on how to improve himself and improve his channel and improve his content. So if you are interested in following somebody that's active in the community, would highly encourage you to follow Gus Gonzalez. So again, this isn't currently in the show notes, but I'll put it down below later. So the other person I wanted to highlight was Nick Dolman. He was part of our group last week that joined us, and was kind of the Paul of last week, where he engaged and had a lot of good content. Nick is somebody that I met and interacted with first time in Summit 2016 in Tampa. We both presented on the portal. Submitted presentations on the Microsoft portal, and they had just got acquired. It used to be ADX Studios, and then got acquired by Microsoft. And so he wanted to do the technical route, the deep dive, and I was going sort of the route, kind of like what we do now, is, hey, there's this portal out there that Microsoft acquired. What does that look like, and how do we get information about that? And what is this going to be? How do you go about using the portal? And so I had the opportunity to co-present, sort of. And so I presented sort of an intro. This is what the portal is. And then he did an actual deep dive into the product itself. And so that was something that was my first interaction with him. He wasn't an MVP at the time, and so I had the opportunity to meet him and sort of see his journey and learn from him what he's going through. But now he's very much engaged in the community. He was at BDO at the time, and now he's started his own independent consulting firm, and so he's been working on that. And so he's still engaged in the portals, but he's very much interested in engaging in the community, and specifically around portals, because that's the extension. And again, he has a developer background, and he's been on a couple of podcasts recently. I don't know if if he retweeted it recently. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So Mark Smith, who we highlighted last week, has been doing the MVP Mondays, and so he did an interview of Nick, and so I will list that down in the show notes as well. And so if you want to take a look at that, that is another place to learn more about Nick. And so again, he's focused in on the portals, and that was his background, and then he was going into doing more training stuff. And so he's very much a person that I enjoy following. He knows his stuff. And he's very humble about it, which I appreciate. He's not the guy that's going to go out there and brag about how much he knows, but he's somebody that, I don't know, he's just a good guy, and enjoy learning from him, and had posted a couple of things on Twitter, and he texts me and says, hey, what about this or what about that? So again, he's somebody that's willing to help, and always lending a hand. So anyways, his blog, if you want to check it out, and this is his content that he's writing, is ReadyXRM. And so this is some of the stuff that he talks about, and he talks about how where the ReadyXRM came from. And so definitely check him out as another person in the community to follow. I think so. Those are the two individuals I was going to highlight today as part of this 2018 sort of wrap up that we're going to do. And then also the other thing I wanted to highlight is we don't have any news, but as far as the community goes, just go ahead and pull up the CRMUG community real quick. And so when we look at the CRMUG community, give a quick update on that. And so we do have the save the date. And so this is something that I've been again highlighting each and every time, but here if you go to crmug.com/Seattle, you'll get a quick highlight on the community, and this is our upcoming meeting. And so feel free to, I'll drop a link in the description so that way people can get to it. So if there is, the other thing I want to mention here on the community stuff is if you guys are interested in having your community highlighted, if there's anything that you guys are doing as far as an upcoming meeting, feel free to let me know, and I will highlight it on next week's morning with Bacon and Business Apps. And definitely want to use this as a tool to help promote other communities as well. This is the one that I'm familiar with and the one that I'm engaged in, and so very familiar with that. But if there is one or something that you want me to highlight that's upcoming, or if you have a question, I think if you have posted a question out there on the community as well, you want that highlighted, feel free to drop it in the link, and we'll go ahead and take a look at it. And it can be on the Dynamics communities. It can also be on the Microsoft community as well. And so it doesn't have to be this specific community. So take a look at that. If that is something you want to do, feel free to drop a link. And again, I know the video and the chat and stuff is being broadcasted with a slight delay. So if that is something you're interested in today, please feel free to go ahead and drop a link. So the next thing that I had on our agenda is to, again, we don't have any news that we're going to highlight today. Didn't have a chance to engage on Twitter, again, because I was out enjoying time with family. And so that's very important to do. And so we don't have a list of tweets or something like that other than the video that Gus had mentioned or had played. So with that, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and jump into the content, and more specifically the Power Apps content. So this is something, if you're interested, let me know. Again, the other thing that I'm using this time in the mornings to do is, one, interact with the community, help answer questions if you have them, focus in on people that are maybe new to the platform or have questions about business applications, be able to answer it in a more relaxed, again, sales feels like a dirty word when I say it, but non-salesy type of way. So just helping people answer questions. So with that, if there is anything that you want me to go through or highlight, drop it down in the chat window, and we'll go ahead and go through that. The other thing that we'll go ahead and do is with Power Apps. And so had the before we jump into that, almost forgot, podcast. It's coming, same highlight as we gave last week. Have recorded 3 episodes, in the middle of editing them. Hope to have them posted here after we get 2 more episodes recorded. And so we'll be working with Jamie Barker on getting that out. So I guess that was the other update that I had. So we'll be editing them prior to going back to work on Wednesday. And so we'll be doing that over the weekend and hoping to connect with Jamie Barker one more time before we both get back into 2019. But hopefully we'll release those in January is the goal. So cool. Okay. Back to Power Apps. So I wanted, again, one of the things I wanted to cover is Power Apps. We looked at the new admin desktop, admin center, and we'd gone through that and looked at all the settings. It's something that Microsoft's continuing to change. Huh. That's exciting. Okay, cool. We'll see how this goes. Okay. So anyways, we had the settings. We went through the settings, how they're changing them to the new admin center, and how they very much applied back to the system administration stuff. And so what I wanted to do, and this was something that Jamie, when I talked to him, it's this model driven versus Canvas apps. And so Canvas apps, my understanding, and again, this is something that I'm not very strong in, and that's why I'm spending time on it, is to go through and it's the PowerPoint, it's the click and drag, it's the anything you want type of thing. Whereas the model driven, okay, there we go. If we change it to the right environment. So again, this is interesting. So there's different environments, and so you can change the environments right here. And so if we go ahead and do the model driven apps, so here we see the apps that are currently in there. So the Microsoft portals and stuff like that. So these are all the different apps that you're kind of used to seeing. So make this an app. And so this is going to be driven off of our, what we typically think of when we think of Dynamics. And so if this is, Bacon and Biz apps, and so we can give it a description, we can give it a default image like you typically are used to. And again, this is very much that feel that we get when we would go to the solution editor and do a new environment and go about that way, use an existing solution to create an app. So again, if we wanted to use something that already has, if we have a solution set, and so we're going to build out a specific department, and that's going to be contained in one solution. And again, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but when we talk about solutions, there are different approaches to what solutions contain. So is it a new feature? Is it something else? So Paul, I don't know if you've played around much with the new app and the solution, and if that's something that you've had an opportunity to do. And I know everybody has their own opinion about solutions, and how to manage it. So if you have one, feel free to drop it down there in the comments and live chats if you're willing to share. I started clicking around already, and it's going to load here in a second. But what I just clicked on was the sitemap editor. So again, this is all this is all familiar. And so we can create new groups. And again, when we think about this, and let me pull up a new tab here so we can look at it side by side, what this is going to look like. See how long this takes to pop up. I'll put that over on the other screen for now. Oh, here it goes already. Just like that. As soon as you pull it to the other screen, it'll come back. So again, these are the different apps and the different apps that you can have. So all the different apps. And so again, based on security, what people have access to, that's all right there. What we want to go ahead and do is, we'll bring that over to the other side while that loads. So this is the navigation up top here. And again, you have the ability to create different titles. What are the IDs? And so what we can do is we can drag in sub areas. Actually, there's already a sub area there. We can go ahead and edit this. And again, this is where it's very familiar to those that have been interacting with D365 customer engagements, or whether it's CRM. So again, just different labels for the same product on the back end. But this is, again, that CD common data model is the database behind it, and the is it CDS, common data services. But again, everything that we're kind of used to. So what's the entity, or what's the type? So we can do a dashboard, we can do an entity, we can do a web resources or a URL. And I think one of the things that people often forget about is that they can do web resources and URLs. That can be very powerful when you're doing and configuring a system for a specific department or a specific team when you're doing these model-driven apps. because again, you can drop them directly onto something, and it's going to be within context. So this is what we're doing right here. Again, this is the I think it was 9.0 still, but the 9.0 environment had this concept, and so I don't think it gets updated until 9.1 with the new unified interface. And so we need to I need to switch this demo to 9.1 so that we were reviewing that and seeing the stuff that's coming. Let's do that now. Let's see how crazy we can get here today. Let's see if we can't just take a 9.1 solution and take it to. So what I'm going to try to do here, and you guys can either laugh or play along at home, maybe both. I'm going to take let's see if we can't use a 9. Let's do the new UI. And so again, just created a new app like we did before. We're going to use an existing solution. I want to see if you can use the default solution. And if we do, this is probably going to break everything. So here I can choose a solution. The CDS default solution, we talked about that a little last week. Default solution, holy cow. I'm a little nervous. Ooh, this may take forever. Configure site map later, or we can do that now. What? Okay. If you haven't seen the Bacon Bite stuff before, this is how we typically go. We take like a half step forward and go down one path, and we take 3 steps sideways. What I wanted to show is the fact that, so the default solution, right? So for those unfamiliar with the default solution, again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the chat. But the default solution, if you customize it, so we have solutions, right? We've gone over that before. And if you have questions about that, please let me know and we can talk through that. But here's all the different solutions. So they're just containers of the bits and the pieces. Cool. Paul's done some work with which one did I want? This one. So Paul's done some work with modifying the existing Outlook app. Ooh, Paul. What did you use to do that? Because I feel like you don't have a blog article or something like that on it, do you? Because that's something that, and I assume you mean the app for Outlook, maybe? And you guys may be hearing little Bacon Bite in the background. He's supposed to be napping. And this is what happens when you change up his schedule. It's hard to count on it. So anyways, I would be very interested to see what you did there, Paul. Whether you did it the app for Outlook, so the one where it's actually in the contacts there, or if you just edited the solution here and have gone through that. So I think where's the Outlook app? Oh, I didn't have it 250. Huh, okay. Anyways, Paul, if you have an article or something, yes, the app for Outlook. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I don't know if you have some screenshots or have posted on, I think you're on Twitter. I think I follow you on Twitter. If not, I should. But we'll be interested to see what you did there. But if you customize the system, the default solution, again, is the solution that usually, is this changed that you can't see this? Might be too early down. Or anyways, it's got all the different components in it. And so, okay, cool. So just like I'm going through here, just with the sitemap editing. So this app for Outlook, it sounds like what you were doing, but that I would assume flows into the Outlook itself. And so, and the interactions that you have there. I want to try not configuring this. And so just going through, it forces you to configure it. Okay, cool. Even though I said don't configure it now. what I was really hoping is that it would just take it and just take the whole setting and just flip it. Can I do that? I really just want it to take... Okay, let's try this one more time. Bacon and Biz Apps. Let's refresh this. Get rid of that. Can you not delete these? Are they being stored somewhere else? Okay, we'll have to check that out later. Let's try this one more time. 9.1, new UI. Default image, sure. Existing, don't need a welcome. Where'd the default one go? Default solution, configure the sitemap. I should have done it later. That's what happened. Okay, so I'm going to do this later. Choosing the default solution will add only the sitemaps picked, if any, and its corresponding components to the app. So you can't do the whole sitemap, is what I'm seeing here. So let's do it. And I think it's going to come back and say, and this is what we ran into last time, is that nothing came through because you have to configure something. So you can't just take a 9.1 and then redo it as a 9.0 and redo it with the new UI. So last time here, yes, spelling is not on point on Saturday mornings. Create it from a solution. And so let's go ahead and use a solution that looks like, I don't have a good solution in here because I don't think I've done any field service. That's kind of okay. Oh, and of course the trial for field service, that makes sense. Because we can do that and it would bring everything in, but then it's only going to be, oh, interesting. So it doesn't have to be all in solution. So we can do any solution. And then, so essentially that's the catch-all solution. And then what we can do is bring in a specific app. So if we've already made an app for somebody, and again, I don't think I would do this, or I don't see a lot of reason to do this. So we'll just use the business app one. Looks like there's an issue, created solution. There's an error adding the sitemap solution components. Again, I don't think I had a sitemap in here. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot more time in here. Yeah, I'm just going to throw something in there. The entity, the account, that's all fairly straightforward. Parameter passing, I think that comes back in when you want to do like a web resource. I love it when Windows thinks I need all sorts of information. So here I can pass in a web resource, and so what specific web resource I want to bring in, and then also I can pass in a parameter. So if I wanted to pass in the user or something like that, I can bring that in and drop it in there. Privileges, so again, if you wanted to hide or show something, yeah, you're able to do that based on permissions. So again, and this is going back sort of to the old days that we used to hide and show things back in 2011, is you would hide and show them that way. So anyways, let's finish this out. And then we'll press on to the next thing. Let's go ahead and do the account and just make a super simple one. And this is where in the future, next year / next week, what I want to do is actually get into creating one of these for a specific use case. And so if you guys have a specific use case that you want to check out, that's what we'll be doing next week, is going through and actually, contact is going through and saying, as a individual, as a this type of person, this is the issue that I would typically run into, and this is how I'd go about solving it. And it's actually been something that we've done in our how do you spell Rolodex? Rolodex. That's wrong, but Rolodex kind of looks funny, but when you look at a word long enough, everything looks funny. I don't want to save and close it. I want to go back. Anyways, so what we're going to do is go through and say, as this type of person, how would I approach solving this business case? And that, again, we talked about it last week, what it looks like for, we referenced it, I guess, when it's somebody that's a VP of a marketing agency, how do they go about managing projects? And so I have a project that's a very transactional type of thing. And so they do a whole project within a week. And so somebody engages their team and says, okay, within a week, let's go ahead and knock this out. So, yeah. When you have to sneeze on camera, it's really bad because you never can when you need to. Anyways, so what we'll do is that's what we'll approach, and that's the one I'll be working on this week and kind of off to the side. I'm not going to go through all this. There's a lot of great stuff on there on how to configure the sitemap and how to configure this app. Specifically, and this is where I think I was a little surprised, is that this is the model-driven app, and the model-driven app is exactly Dynamics 365, and Gus referenced this. It's like, if you know Dynamics 365 CE, then you kind of know the model-driven app. And it's the canvas-driven stuff. So here I can choose the different forms. And so if I wanted a very specific form, again, this is where when we get into use cases, that's where we'll get into this and say, okay, well, I have a list of forms that I've created as part of, and this is going back to the app side. So if I go back in here, I'll look at entities, and then interesting. We are getting all sorts of fun errors this morning. Huh. But I can see data ingressions and all this other stuff. But just not the entities today. Oh, fun. Let's see if we create one. Actually, if I open one of these, where does it go? So again, what we're in is Power Apps. It's not exactly the admin center, and this is what got me confused initially, because this is, if you go up here and look at all apps and you scroll down to Power Apps, that's where you find this. But that's different than if you were to go to the admin center and, oh, not that one. Cancel. And then go to Dynamics 365. And then from there, you go to try the new admin center. This is different than what we just saw. And that's where it's super confusing, because it's independent. So this is the admin center. And if you click on this Power App, then it'll take you. But here, all I'm doing is managing the environments. And so there's not like a quick, everything else, I don't know, it's a little disjointed. So at least this part. Here's that new app. I don't need that. I was trying to look at the forms and it doesn't come back. Anyways, we won't spend too much time on that. But when I bring in the forms, and again, this is what I'll work on this week and next week when we actually talk about it and go through it. When we talk about the forms here, what we want it to do is actually bring back a specific form for this business use case. And so that's what we'll be looking at. I don't think there's anything special that I want to highlight here. Again, this is all stuff that we've kind of covered, is different information. Here's the default image for this. I think it's the account right here. So if we want a default image, actually this is for app. So again, we're controlling the whole app here. I don't think, does it not allow me to? So if I want to edit the form, it's going to bring it up. This is where Nick mentioned last week. I think this is going to still bring up the old UI, but the Power Apps has a new UI that has come out. And so hopefully we'll be able to play around with that here soon. I'm going to put that on the other screen while it loads. And I'll just go ahead and save and close that. So the other thing that we were looking to do is to see if we can't get this to open as the new unified interface. Cool. We are breaking stuff all over the place. I'm a little, the fact that I can't get to this in the list of entities, do you have to view the default? No, that doesn't make sense, because it's not connected to a. And so now it's got context and saying, what are you trying to pass in? This is where, I don't know. I don't want to troubleshoot this too much. So that's the URL, bundles, vendors. I don't know what that is. Okay. Anyways, let's jump into the Canvas apps. This is that form. Again, this is the old school form. I think Nick did an update on the new forms, and if you want to learn more about that, here they're doing a WYSIWYG. Yes, allow it. But here's that new form, and so this is what we covered last week, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But if you go ahead and put the new image in a tab, and again, this is also stuff that you can learn out there. Check out last week's video. But this is the new updated unified interface, and then the form and the preview. And what Nick talked about last week was the fact that when you click publish, it's actually a save and publish. It's no longer the save and then publish. It's one click. So coming to the US soon, hopefully in 2019, was my hope. So, okay. The other app that I wanted to play around with and learn a little more about was the Canvas app. Because the model-driven app, again, is all based on the common data model, and that's coming in from, a lot of it's coming in from Dynamics 365. So we need to focus in a little more and push in a little more on how we can leverage not only Dynamics 365 CE, but what it looks like to bring in from the common data model as well. And so when we bring in other different topics, how do we bring that in? So let's go ahead and look at the Canvas apps. And Paul, if you have something that you want to specifically look at, or if you had questions, we can do that. So what this is doing is, my understanding is it's creating a one-off app. We'll see how this goes. So do we want to create a form or a gallery? Awesome question. Take an interactive tour to see how an app is built. Let's just play around with it. What do we think? Do we want to do a form or do we want to do a gallery? I'm going to look at you, chat, and see when that comes back. So I know you guys are just catching up and watching the video on the other screen as it's going through. And so if you want to go ahead and drop in there, if you want to do a form or a gallery, and we can go ahead and take a look. So we'll give it just about another 5 seconds there. It looks like the question just came over to you guys. So nothing yet. So I'm going to choose one, and as soon as I do, it's going to be the other one that you guys have chosen. Let's go ahead and choose a form. Okay, cool. So nothing came through, and when it does, we'll either go back and backtrack. MOD is the name of the individual I'm logged in as, so that's why it's that. So, but anyways, that'd be the individual's name, and this is the interesting part and the crazy part is that, if I remember correctly, as a user, these are all, here's my user. And again, this is somebody that has global admin. So let's try Kelly. She's a global as well. Why is everybody a global administrator on this thing? Okay. We're going to change this. This person is not a global. He has no admin rights, but we can do, and again, we'll log in next time as this individual. Product licenses, and so because of the licenses that he has, so if he's got an E5, you can see what's included in that. So you can do the to-do, flow, power apps, and this is where it's neat, and is that with an E5, this individual, and if I'd have to go read the licensing guide again, but I think they can go ahead and not only use power apps, but they can create power apps, and that's the best and scariest part of this whole thing. And I'm just scrolling down here to see what other plans came in. But the E3, again, has flow and power apps as part of that. So with E5, you get a lot more. But anyways, because this individual has an E5 license or even an E3, they're going to have access to power apps and flow. And so they can, one, use them. And then two, I think they can create them. And so as that individual, they can log in here and start creating things. So this is where it blows my mind. When we add a new connection, this is where it just gets nuts. And this is, again, there's more people that are like, they've been doing Power Apps for the last year and a half or something, whenever it first came out. This is something that I haven't had a chance to because the projects I've been on, and as well as I wasn't sure if it was going to stick around, to be honest. A lot of Microsoft stuff, they come out, it's cool things, and they don't stick around for longer than a year or two. But seeing where Microsoft's going and where they've invested this money and how they are even changing stuff in the back end, this is going to be around for a while. And so it's time to act upon it. Sorry, I looked at act and not act upon it. So, anyways, what we're going to do is just highlight the fact that there's, I think when I talked to Jamie, there's 100 plus, maybe 200. I forget what number he threw out there, but these are all different connectors. And this has nothing to do with Dynamics or with Microsoft. I mean, you saw up here, Act. Act is, in a lot of ways, a competing product to Microsoft. To be honest, I don't recognize half of these. Azure, I obviously recognize. Basecamp, I recognize. But again, these are not Microsoft products. They're just connecting to the APIs. I think so. Blogger, I think this is WordPress, if I remember right. Buffer, that's the one I use for Twitter and stuff. So let's go ahead and click that one. Preview social media management for marketers. I'm gonna have to log in, so I'm gonna try to do this on the other screen. We'll see how far I can go as far as login. I don't remember the login. And it's sitting here spinning. So again, we won't spend too much time on this. I think I used Twitter to log in. Let's give that a shot real quick. Now I need to go find my Twitter password. Sorry guys, I'm doing this on the other screen. I'm trying to branch out and not just do the easy things, and try to do some of the harder things as well. So that way we can, grow together and grow beyond just sort of, oh, this is what we already know. Let's push in on that. Let's actually, expand, copy password. What I'm using is a tool called LastPass. So if you guys haven't used that, I recommend it. It looks like I may have signed in with my other account. Let's try that one more time. And I know this is on the other screen, so oh, quit. Use a different Twitter account. Is it signed in over here as well? Anyways, yeah, so it's signed into the browser, which is awesome. Apologize, guys, for not having this already up and running. But again, this is, somebody told me, it's more like Twitch. So Twitch, they have guys that are developers that just spend time doing coding and stuff like that. So it's a lot less it's very informal. And so I may start streaming at night. Around that stuff. Try logging in with your email address and password. Once you've logged in, you'll be able to social sign in. Okay, cool. So it looks like there's it recognizes this account, but it looks like it doesn't allow me, or I've disenabled that. I'm not going to spend too much time. Do I? See, this is where, like, if it was Twitch, you would just keep going, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to sit here. Paul, you're so far the only one interacting. If somebody else wants to chime in here, what I'm going to do is I am going to go down this path until I get a connection. in there. So was that the connector I just needed right there? So connect to database, add new source, a new buffer, great. I'm going to sign into Twitter over here. I don't think I'm releasing any information. Profile. Nope. Edit profile. Where did it tell me to go? Settings. Settings and privacy. I think this is all normal. Privacy and settings. Protect your tweets. Delete location information. Photo tagging. Address book. Personalize. Direct tweets. Search. Okay, let's try this again. Sign in with Twitter. And then it gives me a warning. And again, this is pretty standard. So I go to my account, access and passwords. My account. Access and passwords. Privacy password. Okay, passwords. No, I don't need to change my password. Social sign in. Okay. I know this is thrilling things to watch right now as a guy stumble around trying to figure out how Twitter works. So we will work on this. Yeah, this is the confusing part because I've already given it access to these different things. Huh. Okay. Anyways, we won't worry about that. I don't have a good use case right now, so again, I'll work on it in the evenings and go from there and bring it back. So let's go ahead and do a new connection. Let's do something I do have the password for. So this is the CDS, so the Common Data Service. So let's go ahead and connect to that. And this is where we go back to the VP of Sales, being able to connect to what's already there when it comes to the database. And so he's not creating a new database. He's not creating his own access database. He's leveraging what's already there in our database that we're controlling as IT members. So he's going to bring in the accounts, and we'll go with the classic accounts and contacts and Rolodex. So we'll go ahead and connect those two. And so now he's connecting from his app, that's sort of the standalone app, into the different databases and into the different the CDS, Common Data Service. So he's got those two different connections, and that's fairly straightforward. That's the account. I can bring in place my data cards. So it looks like what it did is it brought in and just sort of dropped things on there on this form for us already, which I'm not a huge fan of. We'll see how this comes back. The other thing I want to do is I want to drag in some more. Maybe I'll just connect to Twitter. Do they have their own Twitter one? As opposed to it's replacing the whole data cards. We'll see how long this takes. Okay, cool. This takes forever. Note to self, be careful what you choose if you choose replace. Is it going about? So the other one I want to connect to, like I was saying, is the Twitter one. And so I want to go ahead and connect to Twitter directly, and I should be able to bring that in. Buffer, it looks like you have to bring something else to bring in. Things to remember is that Canvas apps are for very simple use cases, while model-driven apps, reading off of Paul is engaging again. And so he's just talking about there is very simple use cases, while model-driven apps are for more complex things. And I appreciate you calling that out, Paul, because you're right. It's the use cases that I've heard with the Canvas is that it's, and I don't know if I like the term or it's an interesting term, but it's a throwaway app. And so that concept that we're going to go ahead and we're going to create something, and it's going to be a one-time use. And after that use is done, we can go ahead and get rid of it. And I appreciate you calling that out, Paul, because you're right. It's the use cases that I've heard with the Canvas is that it's, and I don't know if I like the term or it's an interesting term, but it's a throwaway app. And so that concept that we're going to go ahead and we're going to create something, and it's going to be a one-time use. And after that use is done, we can go ahead and get rid of it. And so that's something that, again, when you're enabling end users leveraging it, it's awesome, right? So I think I've shared this before, but at Dynamic Summit this past year in Phoenix, Sue, who leads the Power Apps group, kept receiving these questions. How do I do X, Y, or Z? Or how do I connect with this? Or where's my community? And so what she was starting to build is a Power App for her own use. And so it was something that she was just building on the fly that was connected in her environment and going to it. It didn't save my file. Anyways, but she was building it on the fly. And I think that was a great example of something that she had a business need that day, because that week, everybody kept asking her this question, and she was able to create it in the morning and be able to leverage it in the evening, where people said, hey, here's my zip code. Can you tell me where my nearest chapter is? And so based on the information that she had outside, she could enter the zip code in, be able to pull in that information. And that was kind of that one-time use, because who else is going to use that? I mean, she's going to use it. Maybe somebody else is going to use it for another chapter or another use case. Be interested to see if you could put that on a website and embed it in a website. But again, this is where you run into the issue that currently you have to be logged in to leverage it. But sorry, I get distracted because that would be a use case. But again, yeah, Paul, you're right. It's for those simple ones. It's for the simple use cases where it's sort of this one and done. Where did it go? I refreshed it and it goes away. That's nice. Okay, let's try a new one again. We'll connect to the same one. We'll connect to Twitter. So form. Let's just connect to the account this time. Oh, there it is. It's already, I saw my connection that I used last time. Let's connect to the account for now. I should have connected to contacts, because that'll be individuals. You can see what fields are already on there. So if I wanted to add more fields, I think I just click in. Okay, interesting. If I go look at connections, is that going to bring in the connections that I just had? Yeah, so there's that one. If I create a new connection here, is that going to let me leverage it over in the other one? DocuSign, which is a neat one to see. I assume these premium ones you have to pay for, which is fairly common for some people. For some programs. Pitney Bowes tax calculator, that's interesting. I wonder if there's one for Avalara. Is sorted by name. Because Avalara is another sales tax program. I'm not seeing it. But I wouldn't be surprised if you could somehow do a Flow connector or whatever. But that would help you with sales tax. Again, be very careful using this for transactional things, especially because they're throwaway apps or simple use case apps. What was I looking for? Twitter. Let's go ahead and bounce down to Twitter. MailChimp. Interesting one. Wonder if you could send it out with that. Notifications. I'm very curious on this. Let's go ahead and grab Outlook. Sign in with the person I'm already signed in with. Which is interesting because that's going to be very contextual. Because it's one person, right? So I'm signed in as this individual. There is a search up there. I'm just scrolling through. But anyways, you can see the number of different things that are out here, which is just crazy. How many different things are out here to connect to? Because people have these needs. And again, you can now do the best of breeds type of thing and bring in anything. Salesforce, I think this one's awesome to see that Salesforce is in there, because now you can use Office 365 using and then leverage Salesforce, create an app, and then still be able to talk to it. I don't know how I get a Salesforce environment, but that'd be cool to do, is get a Salesforce environment and play around with that. Twitter. Here we go. All the way at the bottom. Talks a little bit about what Twitter is, which is kind of cool. I'm going to... I'm going to sign in with my other account, because I don't think I have the restrictions like I did on the Bacon Bites one. Did that go? Again, I'm just doing it on the other side just in case something were to pop up. Okay, cool. So now I am connected with that Twitter account as well. So here, we got form 1, screen 1. And again, this is where I've done a little bit with this, but you can do additional screens. Add new screen. So whether I want a list or a scrolling, so let's go ahead and add a list screen and almost recreate Twitter a little bit. So it's adding a screen. This looks to take a little bit when you add a new screen. So I'm going to put that over there and this on the other side so we can do two things at once. What other one did I want to play with? YouTube, that's kind of cool to see. Zendesk. Yammer. WordPress. Okay, cool. So I recognize, interesting, Venmo. Interesting. For those that don't know, Venmo, powerful tool of not Venmo, it's two completely different apps. What is it? Vimeo is the video platform. So anyways, Venmo is you can pay your friends type of things with your bank account. So that's Venmo. Vimeo is content management. It's like a YouTube kind of thing. Video management, marketing, analytics, all in one place. So anyways, very different. Two different things there. We'll give that just a minute to see how long the screen takes to come back. On the other side. Can we do flows? So the other one, and again, we touched on this just while that's going through. Flow is helping take information from one place to the next. It's almost like there's an issue with it's not my internet. Because you guys are all seeing the stream. It's almost like I needed to sign out and sign back in before this morning. So we won't do... we'll see what happens. We may just cancel that or pause that and come back to it. But anyways, Flows is taking that information from one place to another. And so there's different... again, I highlighted John, I think it was 2 weeks ago. Just the fact that there's an 8-hour training on Flow and how to use Flow and when to use Flow and everything like that. Here you can, and this is where, again, it listens for an action in any of the different connections, and then triggers and then other actions to happen. And so when we look at sending approval emails, you can imagine what that's going to do, right? So it's going from Power App ultimately to Exchange there. So send an approval email. Can I click yes? Use this one? Huh. Flows. Explore it. Create from template. So there's a bunch of templates out there that people have created, which is awesome. You can see the different things that need to connect. I don't know which this middle one is and how many times they've used it. Anyway, interesting. That's kind of cool. By Microsoft Flow Community. It'd be interesting to see if people are able to put stuff out there. Okay, am I missing something on this? The answer is yes. The question is what? Manual approval. John, or excuse me, Paul, I don't know if you've created a flow yet. Again, this is my first time playing around with it. I just thought you would click this and it would have like a click next to create your flow. Flow, create from blank. Middle thing is the approve icon. Okay, so create from blank. The middle thing is the approve. Middle. Oh, this is the approve icon. Okay, awesome. Thank you. You don't know, am I missing something? Like on my screen here, Paul? And again, I know it's a little bit delayed, but I appreciate you dropping that in there. I feel like there should be like a button here that says yes, confirm. So anyways, we'll go back to flow. I don't want to explore. I want to, again, you're creating from a template and it takes you back to the same screen. Anyways, they all look the same. Okay, cool. We'll do a new one. From blank, it looks like the, oh, why did I click try again? I didn't mean to do that. Okay, that'll take another 20 minutes. Let's do things I'm familiar with. When a record is created in Dynamics, so what organization? So this is cool because again, we're doing this at a different level. So if you think about this, that's this level, right? So if we have multiple different environments, so if we have a test environment, it'll be interesting to see how you migrate on between it. But if we have a test one, we can only do it. We can have it just in test and can be listening for that. On the account, rename, add a comment. Interesting. So I can add comments here. When the account is created, I can remind myself. I can edit the comment, which is cool. Delete, add. So my connections. What kind of other connections would you have? So as the individual that's logged in, so it looks like, Paul, you've only created a flow in flow, created flows in kind of like what we're doing here and not from the Power Apps side. Interesting that it's having me sign out or sign in. I just done that. Okay, cool. So now we can add a new step, right? So that's the trigger. So it's listening, and that's very, very specific, which is interesting. It's not, so if I want to add a different trigger when something gets edited, it doesn't look like I have that option there as the trigger. So what are my actions? So what are the built-in actions? So it looks like it is with my environment when you create a new flow button when using the templates at the bottom. So there should be a button at the bottom. Okay. Thanks, Paul, for checking that out. I'll try a different environment here afterwards and see what we can do. So we can choose an action. We can look at all the actions. And so if there's a condition, which is cool. So if we want to do a condition, we can go ahead and say if. So if, So if the unique identifier, so this is showing me all the different fields. So if the account name begins with something, these are showing you all the different fields in that table, which I can only imagine what this looks like if you're pulling from a database that's not part of the CDM data model. Yeah. Number of opportunities one. So if it's, which you can't do, that doesn't make sense. So if the parent account, these are like add an expression to do basic things like access, convert, compare. is this? So if the parent count equals something, so you could do that. Okay, interesting. What's the advancement? Oh, okay, let's keep it with simple right now. We'll go edit the stuff later. So if let's go created by. So if created by does not equal the owner, if that's the case, then let's go ahead and with Office send an email to, can I bring in the person that created it, or the owner? Ooh. Okay. I know this was, I got into the zone. Oops, sorry. Oh, good. Control Z works. There was like 3 things that just happened there. So what this is a workflow that says, okay, when something happens, so when a account gets created, so essentially a record in Dynamics gets created, and if the person that created it is not the same person that owns it, then go ahead and send the owner, the person that received the new account, information. Like, let them know that they have a new account in the system. And again, this isn't super complex. You want to be very, very careful on doing this, especially if you do like a bulk insert, and so somebody doesn't upload. That's going to have a huge impact. But what I can do now is drop in some of this dynamic information, which is super cool. Date created, so they created on date, and then also who created it. Right. So there's, again, super simple kind of example there, but this is telling us, letting the new person know what happened. The one thing that I think is interesting right now is I think this is sending based on myself. And so based on the fact that I'm creating this, it's not something that is going to be able to be used by everybody. So I don't, again, this is honest to goodness, this is my first flow that I've ever created, which says a lot about how intuitive it is being able to bring this in. So advanced, so I could send it on behalf of somebody else, which is cool, but I want to be careful. Again, this is more, maybe you want to send it on from like reply at contoso.com or something like that. BCC, carbon copy somebody else. You can do that as well. Attachments, we can check out the different attachments, so we can add attachments. I would want to see more, because I don't want it out of Dynamics. That doesn't make sense. Huh. Interesting. Okay. The other thing that I think is interesting here with the dynamic content is that you probably could do an if statement. So if account name is null, then perform action, which is kind of cool. And so you could change what comes in. That's the account name. Can I change that dynamic content? I want it to be like an actual physical file. Maybe I have to go to SharePoint if I wanted to like insert a SharePoint file or something. Okay, well, I won't spend too much time on this, but that would be cool. Importance, is it HTML? Yes. and it is HTML. The other thing that you probably want to do in here is the URL. If you wanted to drop in the URL for that different, does it have URL, or do you have to like FTP site? I would hope you wouldn't have to like build that out, because that would stink, especially since it's like in context. Parameters. Items. URI. I don't know what URI is. Anyways, I'm sure somebody else has already done this, and so I would probably go out and see. Heck, let's do it. Dynamics. Oh, it's not Dynamics anymore. It's Softflow. So Microsoft Flow, Outlook, email, dynamic. URL. So we'll see if this actually. Yeah. Here you go, right here. Check account online. I would like to include a link to the Dynamics app so that they can quickly jump in and update the record I've set. Oh, is HTML to yes. Okay, that's what we just did, including in the format. So this is, however, the email is never received. If I change the link to another page, such a thing. Huh. When was this created? 2017. So this has been out for over a year. So the answer is yes. And so what it does is here, this is leveraging HTML is what it's doing. And HTML's capabilities. So here it's saying, okay, what is the actual link right here? And so that's the link itself. And interesting that they don't pass it in. So one of the things you can do is you can pass in a link, right? So if I were to drop this in here, this is actually just a link. It's the same thing as if you were to go to, let me pull it up here. So it's essentially giving this, right? So this is interesting that it says Force Classic. What's my other option? Okay, I'm going to break this real quick. We'll see what happens. Again, I love URLs with a browser-based thing because it tells you exactly what's going on. I haven't seen that Force Classic before, and so that's forcing it to be the classic view, which looks like it's the same thing. If you don't force it to be the classic, does it do anything different? Anyways, this is the URL. Each app has their own URL in there as well. And of course it's going to take some time, but anyways, that's what we're seeing here is this, this URL. And so this is for a specific app and the ID there. So that's your domain at CRM. And this is, again, it's an older one with CRM4 there. Or I think it's a different region based on the number there. Anyways, what I would have anticipated is that if you actually go to an account, and of course it's all slow now since I was breaking it, is if you actually go to a specific account, and there's a number of different ways to get to where we're going, but essentially each URL, each record in the system has a unique URL. So what you can do is, when this comes back, is actually bring that URL, drop it into that email, and then when they click on that, it actually takes them to a specific account. It's something we do all the time when it comes to like SSRS reports. We would do that. So that way people were clicking through it. So it's not just a report that looks like a PDF and that you can't interact with, but it's something that you can actually interact with and be able to go update the data. So anyways, that's taking some time on the other screen. Maybe it's the screen today. I don't know. As soon as I bring it to the other screen, of course it works. And I'll try to bring it back to this one and it's going to stop working. So I'll leave it on the other screen and just bring it back when it's done. It's so weird. I don't know, Paul. I don't know if you've seen that before. It's just, I don't know. It's sometimes like the software you use ends up getting in the way. So anyways, here we are, on a record. If you, to pop it out, what it's going to give you is like the full URL of that record. When you pop it out, I'm going to bring it to the other side and we'll go from there. And so here, it doesn't matter if it finishes loading, it should be okay. What we have is like the full URL for this place, right? So here's the actual ID. So this is the record ID. And so that's the ID of this record, obviously. And so there's different, I think there's still tools that'll go through and like actually parse out what your URL is. And okay, this is the record ID. This is the entity ID as well, because that's something else that you often need to pass through. Actually, that's not it. It's right here. It's between these 7B and 7D is actually the unique ID for this record. But what I would often do is I would take this, and again, this takes a little testing, but I would go like that. Where'd it go? And then when it comes to this part right here, right, that's where I actually want to use the account. And so I don't know if this will work. We'll see what happens. But what this would do is that would pass in this specific account as dynamic information. So let's go ahead and try this out. If I don't want it to do anything, do I just leave it? Okay, cool. So in theory, when a new one gets created, it'll go through. As long as the created by is not the owner, then that'll go ahead and do. So let's go ahead and let's test it. Save it. Flow checker looks like no errors, which is good. I'll perform the trigger action. Save and test. Okay. So let's put that on one side and this on the other. Let's create a new record. And this is going to be my first flow. And I need to change the owner because that's the condition that we have going on here. So if I change the owner, it should be to anybody, and save it. Again, this is using what we typically think of Dynamics 365 CE, which is also the common data model. And that's coming back. Interesting. So it did fail. Okay, cool. No dependent action succeeded. Okay, cool. So a couple of different things. One, it looks like the condition. Bad request. Where... one of the recipients, this is the recipient, is invalid. Huh. So the person, the owner that I tried to send it to didn't work. Okay, cool. Let's just see if this will work at all. Can I use any? So if I just want to do social at thebaconbytes.com. Oh, that's kind of cool. So I'll perform with the trigger or using data from a previous run. So use the same data I just did based on the new flow that I got, and let's try it again. That's a cool feature. Whoever invented that was cool. What are you counting up? Ran successfully. Cool. And because I think I still have my email set up, it should pop up here in a minute. Flow ran successfully. So social@thebaconbites.com should be getting an email. It's interesting that this URL is like that. Let me try to switch over to the screen real quick and let me see if that email came through. I am not seeing it yet. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll keep that an eye out open for that and see if it comes through. But anyways, so that's cool. If we were to take this, and again, you see here that URL changed because of the dynamic information. Other things you notice here, my first date created, this is like Zulu time, so I'd probably want to change that. And also this graded by doesn't look super nice, but I should be able to drop that URL in there. It's got an extra. And what we should expect to see is that one to come back. And so we'll see what happens here. Again, I'm going to put it on the other screen. I don't know why it's taking so long right now when it's on the screen. So anyways, yeah. I wish you guys could see the other screen. As soon as I put it over there, it changes. I'm sure there's a way to show both screens, but we won't worry about it. I'm going to put it on the other screen. Just have to believe me that it's coming. And there it goes. And so this is, honest to goodness, this is the URL we just dropped in there, right? And so this is the one we created. And then this is the one that was in the email. So again, that was just a quick sort of run through first time going through it, what you could do. And so if I wanted to edit this, the account name was good. The created on was weird. So created on, or created. The date and time displayed in the time zone selected in Microsoft Dynamics 365 options versus the record migrated. But is there a way, format date and time, so timestamp, required string that contains the time, return string in date format. So shouldn't I go like this? Date, month, year, and then, wait a second, it's out of order. So if I want to do created on, this is where I think it'll be interesting because yes, the VP of sales could do this, but how many VPs of sales? Nothing against VPs of sales. But how many are going to spend the time to do this? String. Is that it? Is it going to yell at me? Expression is invalid. What am I missing? Do I have to have it like... So there's definitely a format that it's expecting it in. What is it missing? Anyways, ISO 8601 is going to be applied. Okay. What is that? Am I okay with it just being ISO 86? Yeah, we'll give it a shot. Okay, so it's next to each other. This created by, I didn't like that because the created by username, that's the one we actually want. So if we save that, do a test on this, doesn't, we'll use the one that succeeded. Interesting that it keeps a log, which is kind of cool. I don't know why it counts. I'm sure there's somebody out there that knows exactly why it counts. Social. So it's the same thing. Well, it dropped the seconds off or something. Created by didn't come through this time, which was interesting. Even though we changed it. It's nice that it defaults to the one that you chose. So again, what we're running through here, interesting that it came through. Don't know if I've noticed that popping out like that before. Yeah, the date format, I don't like it. Let's play around a little more with that. How are we doing? So again, this is just playing around versus invalid. Flow, Microsoft Flow, and then I wanted to date format. We're about to have Paul for the win. I'm glad you joined us today, Paul. And there it is. Paul for the win. This guy's miles ahead of where I even look to think to be. So when we have that come back, I don't know too often how month, day, year, and you guys saw it come back with, these run so quick, I like it. The 29th is right, the month is right. Somehow, or excuse me, the day and the month are right, but the day and the year are right? But somehow it's giving me 54 is the month. Anyways, this is why you check this kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this. Okay, anyways, you can see that you can do different things with the month, which is cool. We saw the URL come through, which is good. Created by, I don't know what was going on with this, because anytime we saw that, it was coming back as the actual user. It's not coming back with anybody, which is the user. So I'm not sure if that was because, let's try the, we lost the first test, but it should have come through with all the same data. Anyways, we won't spend too much more time on that. One of the things I want to do, and just pause a moment, it's hopefully you guys have enjoyed the stream so far. Baby Bacon was probably going to get up soon, so we'll see what happens. And that's usually my cue to to stop recording and stop streaming. You heard them go down a little earlier today. One of the things I want to do before anything, it looks like Paul's got some more things I want to drop in there. While I'm doing this, again, what I wanted to do is just take a huge shout out to the community that's here. So we'll try the year, month. Oh, interesting. The capitalization. Maybe that is what's going on. It doesn't like that format. Interesting. Even though we just had that same format. Did I mess something up when I was doing that expression? Okay. Squirrel. Wanted to give a huge shout out to Paul Johnson. So this guy has been on stream like the whole time, engaging, helping with the audio issues. Paul, I don't know why I'm not following you, but I should be. And so I'm definitely going to follow you as you're going through different things. Excited to see what you're putting out there. It looks like you're a GP consultant. Also D365 using Smart Connect Scribe. This is why you're such a flow guy. Power BI and Power Apps. And so everybody show some love to Paul. Give him a shout out. Follow him on Twitter. Engage with this guy. This guy has been a huge help for me today. And so, Paul, I very much appreciate you jumping in and stream today and helping with this. So let's get this. So let's try that year thing you were doing. So if we used year dash month day, it likes that format. But if we use that capitalization like we had, that worked too. It must have been a copy paste issue. Save it, test it. Some of the previous data. It's going to spin here for a second. And there Paul is for the win. So again, it's interesting. I wonder if it's the capitalization that I was having issues with. So we do month, day, year. Does that cause the same thing? So we'll see this come through. Yeah, so the capitalization is what was causing it there. So here we see that created by came through fine. Okay. Cool. Okay, so let's jump back into Flow. We tried a quick recap. We did some news stuff. We gave a shout out to Gus and to Nick. I keep wrapping it up like this because I have a sneaking suspicion that the little guy's going to wake up soon. That's typically when I take like one headphone off so that way I can hear if you can hear him yet. Anyway, so we highlighted Gus and Paul, actually Gus and Nick last week earlier today. Paul, huge shout out to you. I'm going to definitely drop your Twitter account down in the link below in the description so that way everybody can follow you and engage with you on social media and stuff like that. If there's a different place that you want me to direct them, Paul, feel free to drop it in the chat or hit me up on Twitter and I'll make sure to update the description with wherever you've linked in. If you have a website or something like that, we'll definitely point them your direction. The other thing we worked on and we tried to do today, we tried to use the default app and push that out to a 9.1 environment. I'll work on that this week, getting a more robust one. We tried the Power App and it just sat there and spun, right? We tried to do the Power App. Where'd it go? Nope, not that one. We talked about the model-driven app. Wow. I did it again. We talked about the model-driven app, which is essentially Dynamics 365 for those interested, CRM or CE, for those that have been around and are familiar with that. That's there. Also, things that we worked on and went through again was Flow. And so, to be honest, I had never created Flow. I'd created a Canvas app before, based on Excel, and so that was there. So with that, we'll go for another couple minutes here. But this is just, again, sort of taking that action, what we can do, dynamic information we're kind of brought in. Different concepts here, again, that we've highlighted. So based on what has been created, do some logic. And again, Paul, if you know what language this is, because I'm sure this is either a Microsoft specific language or something that I think you're familiar with, go ahead and drop that down in there if you know which language that they're using for flow. But so there's different options there. You can add a comment, you can add the name. So that way you can easily read it. Interesting, you can't rename this one. But anyway, so that's what we went through. Different options here when we're doing the email. We're using all the same connectors, which I think is cool. Send an email. I haven't been updating this, but this has definitely been updated. If we add a new step here, and this is where I'm very interested, because what I've heard from Microsoft is that this is something that's coming out and that they're going to start using as part of it, is that this is going to be the new workflow tool for Dynamics CE. Interesting, you have custom ones. Premium ones, again, which I don't know if that's paid for by you or paid for in general, and then built in. So conditions apply to each. Do until, oh, interesting. So you got some loops here as well, some scopes, some switch controls as well, which is nice. Compose, create HTML table. Whoa. Can you really? So you could create a CSV table. So essentially like an Excel table. Can you do? Can you do straight up Excel? Get rows. So you're getting information, you're inserting information. I got some triggers. Actions, delete a row. Are you, oh man. I'm just thinking about a project that I'm supposed to start next month, 2 weeks from now. And just, I'm going to turn on another light real quick. And that project is going to do a lot of stuff with Excel files. Anyways, I'll describe a little more about the project so that way you can, I'll think out loud. Worst habit is when it comes to the project itself, though, what they're doing is they're gathering information from partners throughout the region, and the partners need to submit information. And so I'm not sure if we're able to leverage Flow, and bring back that information and have it write to specific tables, and be able to then generate those tables for them based on an action. And so if they submit data, they're going to use common data model in the back end. So go ahead and drop that information in the common data model. And then from there, go ahead and generate the Excel file for them as well, and have that Excel file get updated based on the row, based on the information that they've submitted. So if they insert a row, create a new connection. So the Excel file's got to live somewhere. I'll just do it locally. It looks like I have to actually drop all this in, credentials and domain and stuff like that. So I'm not going to do that for now. But just thinking about how we can take that Excel, they're going to submit information. So is there an FTP site or something like that they can submit information into, and then be able to suck in that Excel file, generate it, upload it to CDM, and then based on the information, other information in CE or CRM or CDM, whatever you want to call it, bring that information back into back into the Excel file for them to then have updated. So if there's some verification or eligibility or something like that, be able to have them submit it. Goes into Dynamics, does some manipulation around that, some logic that's all in the CDM. So it's going to be applied to everything, whether somebody enters it in directly through CRM or whether it gets updated somewhere else. That can all be part of sort of one business flow. So we have logic in one place, have the flow of information coming back and forth from doesn't matter where. Using flow, we can capture it from Excel or from FTP site or whatever. I think we saw an FTP site, right? So insert flow, FTP, yeah, Dropbox, box, whatever, in SFTP or whatever. But that's just nuts. That changes maybe how we approach this project. Because the other one, I mean, Paul, you've done Scribe and stuff like that. I mean, it's all stuff Scribe can do. But this is going to allow us to do it potentially through here a little easier. But it's not as powerful as like a Scribe or a Kingsway Soft or some of these other products. I'm very curious. I'll have to talk to some of the other developers that have more experience. Again, my background's as a functional consultant, so I don't have the deep background. I kind of like you saw with Paul. He's like, dude, just put single quotation marks, not double. But anyways, this, I don't know, I get excited about this. I mean, creating a CSV file, that's really, I think where we'll be able to leverage it more than, from inserting Excel maybe, or sucking it in from Excel. We can create a CSV file for them. Interesting that based on where this is, it's contextual about the thing in front of it. So if I wanted to, can I add that here? Interesting. I can also do a parallel branch. Let's do a parallel branch. Let's get a little crazy with it. So with a parallel branch, kind of sucks that I can't see that. Huh. Microsoft, if you're watching, this would be helpful not to have to do this. No dynamic. There's no content available. Why can't you take it from my CRM record? Huh. Oh, there it goes. From the account. I doubt that's going to like it, but if I take the header name, and again, this doesn't make sense because it needs to be longer. Created by, actually, let's not use created by. Let's use that created on. Interesting, it has to be one. It can't be spaced. Have a space in there, which makes sense. And this is actually where we want to take that other value we created over here. Work smarter, not harder. Yeah, this, I can't believe, oh, you have to scroll. I guess you can scroll down here at the bottom. Do the trigger, and so it's going to do that. So let's go ahead and save this, run it. Oop. Run action, create table. The from property is the value must be an array or an expression. Hmm. Does it have to be? So what I'm trying to do is create an array here. We'll see if I doubt that will go. Says it doesn't care. Let's see if this goes. I have a feeling that it won't. So this, which we did earlier, looks to have run. This one failed. From property value table action. Input string. The value must be type of array. Yeah, so it needs to be an array, which is kind of almost what I was going towards. Is there... I'm surprised I don't have a search feature here. String, yada yada, float. Okay. We'll play around with this maybe next time, but I need to hop off and go take care of the little bacon bite. Anyways, there should be an array. I'm surprised there's not more. Good. Makes sense. Yada yada. Can I do old school? If you spell array, it's easier to find it. Do a couple of collections, min max. Yeah, so it's not, there's not like an array option, which I thought, I just want to use dynamics. I don't, which is interesting. In the header, you can bring it back that information, but you can't bring it back as part of this. So anyways, I'm not going to spend any more time on that right now today. Interesting stuff. I think the flow is going to be very powerful. The fact you can test, that's huge. To be able to do that, I can either go trigger it myself in the other environment, or the fact is that it's because it's listening, it can go ahead and take those inputs and the parameters that it's gone ahead and saved, and it saves it for 5 different ones, which is cool. So if I wanted to rerun it with something that was successful, I can go back and retest it and see if it breaks, or I can run it with something that broke and try to retest it, and again trying to refine that. My mind always gets blown. I mean, 2 things. Yeah, let's go ahead and save that. It's cool that this gets up to, no, it's send an email. I guess that's all it does. But it's connections are just huge. The fact that you have all these different connections out there, that you can have these different flows, that you can have people that are, looks like you can turn it off. Oops, I was going to go to analytics. The fact you can have end users doing this, it's using Power BI to do it. That's kind of cool. And as we have this next generation of VPs of marketing and sales and CIOs and everything like that, CFOs, people that they grew up learning code. Everybody doesn't love code, but people understand more and more these days, especially with millennials coming in and the next generations coming in. And as somebody with a young kid, I mean, just thinking about the coding that he's going to have, and it doesn't mean that it's this deep and coding experience that he's going to have. Maybe he doesn't enjoy coding, but the fact is he knows it because it was part of his classes or whatever in school, in high school. I mean, you still use occasionally algebra of some sort. But it's the citizen developers, and Microsoft really is. I mean, they're bringing these tools that not only citizen developers that like myself, that's a functional previous accountant, can leverage with some experience. It's somebody that's coming in and just knows how to do it because they know code. And so they're like, I want to take this information when it triggers, go do that action. And that's something that they're going to have grown up knowing. And so very cool to see Microsoft go this route, be able to use this information. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited for it to become a part of my process for implementations, for it to be common. Very interested to see how other people do this and how other people leverage it. Feel free, if you have ideas on how to leverage this or how you've used it, drop it down in the description, or drop it in the chat right now. Again, the fact that you can have one connection, I think, is awesome. So when you're looking at data, connections, you can just have them through there. And it's going to go places. I'm very excited about this. I'm very excited about where Microsoft's taken this, how it's not just, it goes back to, it's a business application that solves a problem. It goes all the way back to Gus's silly little Mario cartoon, where he just talks about and I'll just bring this up on screen real quick, where he just brings up Mario, and what people care about is the fact that Mario is, I don't know what the name is, but it's when he's like, he's not Super Mario, but this is what he cares about. People care about this. They don't care about the product or the tool. What they care about is the fact that they have issues and that they want to be able to use whatever tool, business application, whether it's Flow or whether it's Power Apps or the model-driven apps, Canvas apps. They don't really care if it's model or Canvas, right? They just want to be able to perform the action. And that's what I'm excited about, is that I really do see Microsoft as somebody that's investing time and money. And I think the other thing that I'd be interested in to see how Salesforce, how Amazon is doing this, because it's not, I know Microsoft because that's the one I need to learn, and but it's not something that they're sitting on the sidelines. I think they're very much investing in going places with their own tools. So anyways, Paul, very much appreciate, got to give Paul another shout out, just with the work that he's done and the help that he's helped me with on today's stream. So again, everybody go check out Paul Johnson. Again, he will be down in the show notes. Just bringing up his profile one last time. Check out Paul and his Twitter. I don't know if Paul, you have a blog or something like that, but definitely check him out. We'll be following him. Drop him a follow. He's been a huge help on today's live stream with the audio, because I was 3 minutes in and had still had my mic muted. Anyways, that's all I got for today, guys. We'll spend a little time with the family here this week. Hopefully do some editing of some podcasts, maybe a little more recording. I may do some more impromptu live streams this week. We'll see what happens. And so make sure you hit the subscribe button, and then the notification bell. I think you also have to hit that. We'll be posting it on Twitter and stuff like that as well when I'm live. So that way you guys, if you guys are following over there, you should see it come through as well. So we'll do a little more with Flow. I want to connect that buffer one as well, that figure out why it wasn't connecting. But anyways, hopefully you guys had a great Saturday morning, a good kickoff, or if you're anywhere east of Seattle, that you guys have had an opportunity to get into the day, learn something hopefully today. If nothing else, how not to do a live stream or how to improve on a live stream. But very much appreciate again you guys joining us today. Hopefully you guys have had a great 2018. You guys will take some time over the next couple of days and just see what you guys want 2019 to look like. It's another opportunity to kind of reframe what you guys want the next year to look like. And so look ahead. I think it's a great time of setting expectations, setting goals. I think the other thing to do is enjoy the small things in life. And again, enjoy just having coffee with somebody. being real with other people and connecting with people in real life. Can't say enough again about Tasha and Greg and the different people in the community locally that I've met. And so find that local community if you can. If not, always feel free to connect with me, some of the other people on Twitter. We're always looking to help people and engage with people. So Paul, again, another huge shout out. Just people like Paul that are there to help, and Nick last week and Dion the week before. So very much appreciate y'all. As I look forward to next year, some of my goals are to, again, kick off the podcast in the first month, and then just to continue on learning and being able to share my learning experiences with everybody. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. If you guys have any questions, hit us up on Twitter. Feel free to drop a comment down below. I'll be able to read those the next day or so and be able to respond to them. So thanks again, everybody, and look forward to catching you next Saturday at the same time. Thanks, guys.